Hi, and welcome to Chapter 24. In Chapter 24, what we're going to look at is the Consumer Price Index. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And unlike the previous objective, we're going to jump right into the math first. So Consumer Price Index is the measurement of how we look at inflation. So for our first learning objectives here, we're going to explain and calculate the Consumer Price Index. Okay? So this is the inflation rate and the thing that we talk about in the Consumer Price Index. What it does is measures our cost of living. How expensive is it to live in a particular geographic area, metropolitan service area, and so on. So let me go ahead and open this hyperlink to the Consumer Price Index so we can look at some real data. And let's see, here we go. Okay, so this is the Consumer Price Index that is conducted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We'll talk about how we calculate it later on. Here is our 12-month. So if we look at all categories, it's up 0.3%. If we look at those things that people spend money on, so food, energy was down considerably, and all items less food and energy, because that, again, that's what we parse it out as. So right now it's down 0.8%, which is when it's down, that's deflation. And when we can look at different publications and so on. This is released monthly, okay? And again, it is done in two ways. We have urban consumers, and we also have so it's the CPIU for urban consumers and the CPIW for wage earners. And so urban workers are those individuals that are on a salary most likely. Again, most likely. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and return to our slideshow. Here we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. So we also have the U.S. Core Consumer Price Index, and this is also forecasted. So when we look at it, okay, price index fell by most on record in April. And so when we look at exactly what is the core, it excludes volatile food and energy, because those are the two that tend to go up and down the most. So again, just kind of ways that we can get to those things that we are looking at. Okay. So also you'll hear the Consumer Price Index mentioned in terms of COLAs, and these are cost of living adjustments built into many contracts. I often tell students, if you're going to enter into a contract which is greater than a year, you're not really sure how prices are going to change during that year. So many times if you're making a quote, and let's say you quote this project at $20,000 and that's what it's going to cost you and you're billing the consumer. But during that year, let's say that inflation has went up 3%. Well, if you don't build a COLA into the contract, then that 3% comes at your profitability. So something you just want to think of when you have extended year contracts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and erase Smink. This is the Social Security cost of living adjustment. And so just a minute and it'll come up. Okay, so here's what you need to know. Again, when we look at it, what does it mean when you have a COLA? It means that you're going to be adjusted. So let's see, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported September's inflationary data allowing for the concrete announcement of the COLA rising by 1.6%. I'm a contract worker, and so many times we build COLAs into our contractual things that we are doing. It just kind of makes good sense to do that. Okay, how the Consumer Price Index is calculated. We have some steps. The first thing is we're going to fix the basket. What this means is there are several items included in the Consumer Price Index that the Bureau of Labor Statistics calculates. Imagine a shopping list, and that's essentially what fixing the basket is. The Bureau of Labor Statistics goes all over the country to metropolitan service areas and then measures what the prices of those kinds of things are. The second part is we're going to find the prices. We're going to compute the basket's cost, which is just really taking the price times the quantity. Okay, so kind of similar to what we did in GDP. And then we're going to choose a base year. And if you're already thinking base year probably is going to be the first year you're given, you're right, unless otherwise stated. And then we're going to compute the index. And the index is going to be in basis points, not percentages. So hopefully you remember and are used to working with that because we did it in the consumer price index. Then if we want to calculate an inflation rate, we are then going to use the percent change formula from mathematics. So here's an example. So in our basket, step 1, fixing the basket, we have 4 pizzas and 10 lattes. Okay, so that's our shopping list. We have 3 years of data, 2007, 8, and 9. So we're going to find the prices, and here they are. So I know that my quantity of pizza is going to be 4. I'm just going to write it there. My quantity of lattes are going to be 10. And so what I want to do then is to compute the basket's cost. So I figured out the quantities, I found the prices, third step, figuring out the basket's cost. So 10 times 4 is going to be 40, plus 2 times 10 is 20. So the basket's cost in year 2007 is $60. I'm going to do the same thing for 2008. 11 times 4 is 44. 250 times 10 is 25. And I have $69. 2012, 12 times 4 is 48. And 3 times 10 is 30. So this is the basket's cost in each year: 60 for 2007, 69 for 2008, and 78 for 2009. So there's our 60, our 69, and 78. Compute the CPI in each year using 2007 as a base year. So we're going to use the first year that we're given, and we're going to take the current year divided by the base year. Okay? So for 2007, we take the current year, 2007, divide it by the base, multiply it by 100, and this is 100 basis points because we're expressing everything in 2007 dollars. In 2008, then, we're going to take the current year, 69, divide it by the base, and multiply by 100. And that's going to give us 115 basis points. Remember, that's 1/100th of a percent. And for 2009, the current year divided by the base year, 130. Now, again, why do we use basis points? Because it's easy for us to kind of say what happened. So if I'm going to interpret these basis points, this is how I would do it. Between 2007 and 2008, the prices increased 15 cents, or $1 in 2007 is only worth 85 cents in 2008. So that's the first statement I could make. The next statement of interpretation I could make is I could say, okay, between 2007 and 2009, prices increased 30 cents, or a 2007 dollar is only worth 70 cents in 2009. So those are all of the explanations I could use. Remember, what you can't do, much like GDP, you can't go from here to here because that's going to be a different percentage, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. So 15%, 13%. And if we wanted to look at the difference between the years, that's where we could use that percent formula. If you did want to go to 8 to 9, the correct way of saying that would be the most recent year, 130 minus 115 divided by 115 times 100 expressed as a percent. So let me grab my calculator real quick. 30 minus 115 divided by 115 times 100 would be 13.04%. So prices increased 13 cents. And that's how we could do it. But there's another explanation that you totally would want to put in here, and that would be using 2007 as a base, because you're going between years, so you kind of want to make that very well known in your interpretation. Okay, so here's another example. And if you want, pause this and go ahead and work it on your own, but I'm going to go ahead and work it. So I'm going to put my quantities up here. I have 10 beef and 20 chicken, okay? And I want to calculate the basket's cost in each year. And it did it for me for the first year, which is nice because see, the basket costs 120 in the base year. So 120. And then it says compute the CPI in 2015. What's the inflation rate from 2015 to 2016? So the easiest way to start is just to kind of do the basket's cost for each year. So I'm going to take 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 20 is 100. So I end up with 150 as my basket's cost. 9 times 10 is 90. 6 times 20 is 120. So I end up with 210. Okay. So my first question, the consumer price index in 2015 was equal to 150 base, 150. That's the basket's cost. What is the consumer price index? I should be clear on this. That's not actually the answer, the total answer, because I have to take the 150, the basket's cost, divided by the base times 100. So when it asks you for consumer price index, remember those are basis points. Those are not percentages. So let's go ahead and do that. 150 divided by 120 times 100. So how about 125 basis points? So what's the explanation of that? Is that between 2014 to 2015, prices increased 25 cents, or $1 in 2014 was only worth 75 cents in 2015. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. What was the inflation rate from 2015 to 2016? Because I kind of already prepared my stuff, I just have to pull out some information. So the first thing I want to do is compute the consumer price index in 2016. So that was 210. And I'm going to divide that by the base because I need to get the consumer price index, right? And 210 divided by 120 times 100. 100 is going to be 210 divided by 120 is 175. So 175 basis points. So I want the rate now. Anytime you see the word rate, you're going to express it as a percentage. So essentially what I'm going to do is use the most recent CPI minus the previous divided by the previous, again doing that first, times 100, and because it's a rate, express it as a percentage. So my most recent is 2016, So I'm going to take 175. I'm going to subtract 125 because that was my inflation rate in 2015 right here. Okay. Divided by my previous year, 125 times 100 and express it as a percentage. So I get 50 divided by, 125, how about 40%? So the inflation rate from 2015 to 2016 was 40%. To interpret that, I would say, what does that mean? It means that between 2015, 2016, prices increased 40 cents, or the value of $1 decreased to 60 cents. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. And let's just double check. Yep, we got that one right. And we got that one right. Okay, that's the end of this learning objective. What we're going to do in the rest of them is to talk a little bit more about how we construct the consumer price index and some problems that we have in the consumer price index. For example, one of the things I want to show you, just real quick, I'm going to allude to it now, but we're going to talk about it more in the next objective, is, let me go back into my slides for just a moment because I want to show this to you, is look at what happened in our example that you kind of worked on your own, is that when you look at this, the price, let's see if I can do this. Okay, is that the price of beef went from $4 to $9, more than doubled, but the price of chicken didn't go up quite as much. So let me ask you, is beef and chicken substitutes for one another? And most people would say yes. We're going through this right now because of Corona and Tyson and all of this. We're seeing an increase in protein, the price of protein, which is not uncommon. We're going to see that. That'll actually tease itself out in the consumer price index. We know why. It's more of a supply issue because supply is limited. So when you limit supply, we know that prices will increase. It's not necessarily inflationary. It's more indicative of a supply issue. However, if we did see the price of beef go up to $9 and chicken at $6, a lot of people would what? Buy more chicken and less beef. The problem with the consumer price index is it doesn't take into consideration that people have, that people will do that because the shopping list is the same every year. So it's a little bit different, some of these problems that we see in the consumer price index. And we're going to talk more about that in objective, I think 2 or 3. Thanks. Have a great day.